Okay.
Don't worry, it's 6:30 in the morning. You won't be there. Okay, Torrin did not practice. Lamar and Amir did practice, which was good. Hopefully those guys will be available for us, and it'd be great to get Torrin back as well. As far as practice, once again, we've gotten ourselves way ahead, which is good. Another physical, hard, full pad practice, and so now we can slow back on that and continue more mental focus. And with what will be the Thursday practice tomorrow, and then a second Thursday after that. So we'll need to get our legs back for this game against a very good opponent.
How is Dion Bailey doing?
I think Dion's playing extremely well. You know, as you look at our team, you know, I don't know too many teams around the country that you look at your top two leading tacklers are freshmen, and including Dion moving from safety and doing that. It says a lot about him and his preparation, and Joe Barry's done a great job getting him ready, because it's not an easy transition to make, especially in this complicated defense. So it's great, and it speaks volumes of our future there.
Is that a good thing if freshmen are leading you in tackles as opposed to more experienced upperclassmen?
Yeah, it's okay. You know, it is where we are, and so look at the bright part of that is these guys hopefully will be here for 3 more years after this. So between those two guys starting as freshmen, and Lamar's going to be a great player here, and Anthony, we're redshirting, so he'll have 4 years. It's exciting. We really have, the position has completely changed from the day we walked on campus here.
What about another new guy, Isaiah Wiley? How's he doing? Looks good out here today.
He did. He was actually the MVP of the day, and did some good things, which was great to see. You know, maybe he's one of those stories of a guy that pops up during the bye week and takes on the challenge of wanting to play and earn himself some playing time, hopefully.
You had mentioned how he was a little bit behind because he couldn't come in at the mid-year. Did the bye week give him a little bit of time to catch up?
Yeah, I think it did. You know, he looks more confident. And it's so hard transition of coming in without a spring for anybody. You know, to come in and play right away and learn the system. And so unfortunately he was here, then he wasn't here, and you know, so that's a lot of time he would have had, and so now he's just catching up.
You talked about when you were facing Arizona about their big, NFL-looking wide receivers. It seems like Cal has some big NFL-looking wide receivers too. What kind of a challenge does that present for your secondary, which obviously has been struggling a little bit lately?
Yeah, huge challenge. Starting with Keenan, he makes every play. You know, he's fast, he's big, he's strong, possession receiver and deep receiver, and he's a great player. And so, unfortunately for us, we're going to have another, guy we got to really focus on. And and this duo, on the telecast, the Oregon telecast, they called him the best duo receiver in the conference. So we're going to have our hands full.
Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't know. You got to prove it. And, if we want to be the best duo, we got to show up this Thursday and prove it.
How much of an advantage is it to be able to see Cal on Thursday, Notre Dame on Saturday, your next two opponents, on a bye week where you've got, and the players have a chance to see the next two opponents?
Not that much, really, because the film, it's not, the TV copies don't really do anything for our guys, and so we get the film immediately on no matter who we're playing nowadays, so it really doesn't help that much.
When you're deciding this time of year whether to redshirt someone or play them, I'm sure there's very many factors that go into it, like what's best for the team, what's best for the kid. Is there any number one factor that you think about more than any other when trying to figure that out?
Well, the team first, we want to do what's best in the best interest of the team, and that's why we're all here as coaches and players, to win and put the best product on the field. But we always have to take everything into account, and that's discussing things with families at times too as well, so that everybody's on the same page.
Will you ever play a kid if the family's saying we want him to redshirt?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you just got to manage the relationship and just make, if you point out all the reasons why, usually that's not an issue. Usually they
want him to play.
Yeah, or they just know that, that we have a reason for what we're doing, and and we lay it out. This is why, whichever way we're going, to redshirt or not to redshirt. So usually they're very good.
I know you put out the statement yesterday about Al Davis. Just wondering, do you feel like, even though your relationship with him may have not been the best, do you feel like maybe you wouldn't be here right now if he hadn't given you, your first big break like that?
Sure. Yeah. He gave us a great opportunity, and very appreciative of that. And as you mentioned, it didn't end great, like a lot of head coaches there. And he's done so many things. It was good to hear they won today too. The last 24 hours being so hard on Raider Nation to go on the road and get a big win right at the end. And then somebody said Michael Huff made the last play. And I kind of mentioned that yesterday. he was so loyal to his players, and obviously that caused some issues sometimes with the coaches, but he was. Michael's another example. A lot of people called him a bust, and he was a first-round pick, and he kept hanging with those guys. He brought so many guys out of retirement over the years because he was so loyal to those and to the other employees around the office.
Do you view the schedule as being tougher now with the break and what's ahead of you in the next 7 games than what you've seen?
Yeah, I think so. Just with what's coming with, 2 teams that are top 10 teams, a Notre Dame team that, I think very easily could be in the top 10, if a couple games go different right at the end for them. They're extremely talented and really good, and Cal's always a tough team, and especially when you go to there and play. So, our schedule gets a lot tougher here.
There are obviously some issues that happened when you went on the road the first time. Do you expect the performance to be much better this time since you've done it now?
I do, and that usually is the case. As those guys get through that, and we've talked about that game before. There's some very critical plays right there that if we make right there, that game's completely different. And we had every chance to win that game. We're down there ready to take the lead after coming back in the third quarter. The ball's on about the 14-yard line. We have back-to-back plays where we screw up. Otherwise, I think the game is very different. So we got those out of our system, hopefully, and now we're used to that and used to going into a foreign environment, and we'll play better.
Jeff obviously made his name as a quarterback coach, a quarterback guru, if you will, but he's struggled to find that great successor to Aaron Rodgers. In terms of evaluating quarterbacks, how difficult is that? The most difficult position to project from high school to college?
Yeah, I think it is. I think in that position, you really need to know the kids, to know who they really are, not just the film. And that's so hard to do. The rules limit us so much nowadays, especially as a head coach. There's times we got to make decisions on players in general, at all positions, but especially quarterbacks. We got to make decisions sometimes having never even met a guy, whether we give them a full scholarship, and then you're held accountable for their actions when they're here. So it's what I think there's a big flaw in the system. You don't let head coaches go on the road in spring, so they can't go see kids, they can't go study the kid, around school. What do people say about him? And it makes it very difficult, especially with that position, because there's a lot of really talented guys that don't play very well at that position because of all the other things that go with it.
When you look at the run that SC's had, Carson, Matt, JD, Mark, now Matt, is it luck as much as anything else, or what do you think accounts for that continuous run?
Well, we've obviously been very fortunate. I can't imagine there's a better run of quarterbacks over a 10-year window at any school, probably in the history of college football. If you really look at it, to have those guys and the numbers they put up, and where they got drafted, and 2 Heismans in there, is really phenomenal. But I think we do get at SC, one of the reasons why it's one of the best jobs in the world. We do get so many Southern California quarterbacks that we do get to know because they're in our camps when they're younger, and we get to know. We know so many coaches around, we get to know who they are, and that helps us in the evaluation process.
Why was freshmen come, they get recruited halfway, let them make it big, someone was gone. Why was Robert kind of shovel ready, so to speak, immediately here? As opposed to
I think 2 reasons. I think number 1 is family. A lot of times kids come in and you can kind of see how they were raised by the way that they work and how they react to adversity. So number 1 is family, and number 2 is coaching at Sarah High School. Even though it's a UCLA guy, they do such a good job there, especially at that position, but just in general of coaching their guys. And so they come in here ready to go, and he's an example of having both those things.
How much do you take away from Cal's offensive and defensive performance against Oregon last week?
Yeah, it doesn't mean a whole lot to us. It's such a abnormal system that Oregon runs on offense that a lot of times we don't really even use that film because when people play Oregon, they play a completely different defense, because it doesn't resemble anything having to do with pro-style systems. So we don't really even take very much of that. And the other side of the ball, you can a little bit, but it just doesn't do that much for us, especially on our side.
Okay.